Mari, scoot out for a second.
We're going to do one with the adults. Use a simple camera. Go ahead and take it with a good camera.
Wait, Sean. Wow.
Try yours again. Greg. You may have tried.
Hey, Gary.
Do we have
Hold on, clap.
Okay, 1, 2, 3. You gotta stand up down here. Thank you.
Get a red light on here.
Yeah, take it. Big smile. Vincent?
It's this way. That's not our fan. That's not our
Get out of there. Okay, big smiles. Okay.
You guys have any dogs or cats you want to put in there?
Keep paying attention.
One more.
Let's not smile, Sean.
Exceedingly happy. Okay, big smiles. Everybody look
Dave, a little taller.
All right, Westra family.
Was that on cue?
Perfect.
You doing stickers? Things were happening. Mari, Mari, say hi.
Just pick one. No, come here if you don't have a sticker, okay? I forgot to pick them. Okay, here's a sticker.
She youngest. What are you doing? Where's Kyle?
Their seats, are these seats taken?
Yeah, I guess they are now.
No, they're not.
My name is Doug Crandall, and I wish to first of all say happy birthday to my grandfather, Jack Westra, who turned 90 just a few days ago, which we are all here to celebrate and honor this great man who has affected all of our lives for so many years. He's right there. My kids say it's John, but we all know that it's Jack and John. And in fact, John is the word we're going to use tonight and take a few chapters out of the book of John. Chapter 1, the early years. Now it came to pass in the year 1907, upon leaving the ark, Noah said unto John, Go forth and replenish the earth. Being an obedient servant, John says, I will go and do as thou hast commanded. And so it was. John was born of humble means. His father, Ate over Westra, met and married his mother, Giska Experts de Haan, in church shortly after he was converted by the Mormon missionaries in a little town in Holland. After working in a laundry establishment for 4 years, they earned enough money to heed the counsel of the prophet to come to Zion. They came to America with their sons and daughters of Wilhelma Obiaste, Ate, and Egbert, who were born before their departure, and John was on the way when they boarded the ship. The voyage was very rough, and his mother had questioned the likelihood of his survivability, but it was the Lord's will. They arrived in Salt Lake City in April 1907. By late summer, his 2 brothers died from summer's complaints, a form of flu and dehydration. Shortly after John was born, his sister died of scarlet fever at only 2 weeks of age. John also caught scarlet fever, but again, it was the Lord's will that he should live. The family began to increase, 10 in all, and when John was 2 years of age, his brother George joined him. He died 5 months later. Joseph was born 1 year later, followed by Alan, who died at 14 months of age. Alma was born just before Alan died. Alice was born 2 years later, followed by Edward, who is here tonight. Edward, could you please stand up? This is Grandpa's brother Edward. Edward, were the survivors. These 2 are the only remaining children of Ate and Westra. We'd like to have some of the great-grandchildren share some of the personal experiences of Grandpa through his own eyes. Number 1, great-grandson.
When I was 7 or 8, I remember the sadness I felt when the men were carrying the coffins to the church.
Thank you. Now, let's don't get ahead of ourselves a little bit too fast here. Let's go back a little bit. In his own words, I was born on New Year's Eve in 1907 in Salt Lake City, Utah. Being devout members, just 15 years of age, after the temple was completed, when I was just 6 weeks old, my parents took me to be sealed to them in the Salt Lake Temple, along with my deceased brothers and sisters. Okay, Kevin.
I remember living in a very small 2-room house on East 8th Street. There were no indoor plumbing. I had to walk 10 cold miles to the outhouse. Well, it seemed like 10 miles. I remember boiling the water. I remember heating the water for the weekly Saturday night bath, which I shared with my brothers, with my siblings, until I was 15 years old.
I remember going to Sunday school at Billington Farm. Later, they built the church right across the street. I accidentally went to the girls' outhouse and came out with a I remember when I was 8 years old, my teacher called us over to the window to see our first airplane fly over. When I was in 4th grade, I was able to use any ink pen with any ink. Well, when I remember that the girl's pigtails got stuck in my ink. The blonde hair wasn't the best. I was baptized in the Salt Lake Tabernacle on December 31st, 1915 by Edward Orson Pratt. One of the highlights of my childhood was going to the general conference with my father. We sat in the same place on the balcony in the tabernacle. One time my father asked me if I wanted to shake hands with the prophet, and of course I said yes. After we awaited in the line, Anita got to shake the prophet Joseph S. Smith's hand. I'll never forget his warm face and his long flowing beard. One of my favorite apostles was Reverend Richard when he was on his mission in Holland. My parents frequently chatted with him in Dutch, and he said, "Hello, Jack," and my mom said, "It's not Jack, it's
Well, let's see what mode of transportation was back then. That is after the floodwaters receded.
We have walked. They are streetcars. Those bicycles? You are bicycles. If you was lucky, you will ride a bus, horse, and buggy. If you were lucky or if you were rich, you would have a car. I got my first ride in a car when the doctor came to our house and took me for a ride.
Thank you very much.
Now let's see what's happening around that time. Now there were wars and rumors of wars, and in that day there was a great world war. World War I.
I remember feeling very important because all of us students got to knit, wash clothes, other articles to help the cost.
see the marching band and the soldiers from. I remember when the terrible flu epidemic hit. Millions of people throughout the world died. They had to wear face masks. You couldn't go to school or any other public places. You couldn't even go to funerals because that would be a public gathering. And that was when the prophet Joseph F. Smith died. It was a sad time for everyone.
In 1917, when John was almost 10, his family moved into a lovely brick home with indoor plumbing next to Salt Lake Country Club, where the game of golf first came into his life. Let's hear a little golf story.
I remember sitting on a fence, watching the golfers hook and slice their balls. I would focus carefully, and with a smile on my face, I would go and I would retrieve the balls. If I was lucky, I could get 5 or 10 cents. That inspired me to be a caddy. I knew I'd get my money doing that.
This was a wise decision for John because you would need that money to help your family when your father received a call to serve a mission in his native land of Holland. To achieve this goal, a great sacrifice was required, and they would return to their 2-room house. This is the one with no indoor plumbing, so that his dad could sell the brick home to finance his mission. This also required a great sacrifice for John.
I remember Mama telling me that now I was a man in the house and had to do Father's chores. I had to milk the cow twice a day, feed the chickens, gather the eggs, tend the garden, and many other chores.
My mother was very good at taking care of us and teaching us the gospel, and going to church, saying our prayers, being honest, and hardworking, and frugal. Especially frugal.
We just learned what frugal was tonight, Grandpa, so now we move into John chapter 2, the adolescent years. Now it came to pass when the years were accomplished that John should receive the priesthood. 4 days after his 12th birthday, which is with his father being in the service of the Lord on his mission, John was ordained a deacon by Bishop Elias S. Woodruff, in his own words.
What a proud moment it was to pass the sacrament for the very first time. I will never forget the time where I had to pass the sacrament to Peter J. Grant when he took the award.
As John progressed, scouting became an important part of his life. He advanced to the rank of star and then life, and just shy of his Eagle Scout. Perhaps because of this, later he promised all of his grandsons $100. Do you remember that, Grandpa? They got their Eagles. 2 grandsons got it, me, 1. And I took that $100 along with another 100 my mom gave me. And I bought my first car, that beautiful 1950 Chrysler. You gotta remember this car, it was beautiful. And Greg Westra, he was the other one who got the other $100. Because of his industrious and desire to help his mother while his father was on his mission, John got a paper route, which he continued until he graduated from high school. He also became a caddy at the golf course and made much more money, caddying Monday through Saturday than those caddies who worked on Sunday. He was able to pay his tithes, help his mother, save a little as well. Does the word frugal mean anything here? Where does it come from? This is where it started, all right there. One experience taught him the valuable lesson about keeping the Sabbath day holy.
One Sunday afternoon, a foursome was caught on the third hole when a fierce thunderstorm hit. They decided to go under the footbridge, and seeing that it wasn't going to let up, they headed for the clubhouse when a bolt of lightning struck them. 2 of the men died, and a caddy too. I need no further proof than that.
That didn't deter his love for the game of golf. John went on to become an excellent golfer, able to shoot well into his 80s, of which I witnessed personally in my lifetime. Very proud to have him as a golf partner anytime.
I distinctly remember the thrill of turning my radio to far-off places. on my battery-operated machine. Speaker was a microphone, much like the wind-up phonograph machine.
Next came the telephone. I'd never spoken on the phone until they made me the switchboard operator at my first field job at Ashton Jacobs Mortgage Company. What a surprise that was.
Just quickly move into John chapter 3, the dating years. These were some good years. Well, as we mentioned before, John was pretty shy, not dating until he was about 18 years old, which means I guess he missed out the high school senior prom. But John had a few close friends who were not about to let him go date without dateless, especially before his mission. The gang included Jack Harnberg, Bert Ardema, Ray Free, and a few others. While at a dance one night,
They noticed him noticing a rather cute girl. Later on, they ganged up on him and called her up on the telephone. They quickly said, "Jack wants to talk to you," and gave him the phone. Then came his first date.
The dance music of the time, the roaring 20s, was the jazz, the jitterbug, and the Charleston. Let's listen in.
favorite dance places. Sometimes we go into other wards, and one night we noticed a cute girl there. We all decided to ask her to dance. Bert let it out, and we all soon followed. He was declined and came back, and all he could say was, "Oh, for gosh sakes." And the others followed. They were all declined and said, "Oh, for gosh sakes," when they got back. And so I went over there and asked her, and to my surprise, she said yes. And all I could say was, "Oh, for gosh sakes." And walked away.
Okay, let's go back a bit. In the summer of 1927, 2 years out of high school, John and his buddies, Bert Ardema, Jack Arnberg, and Ray Free, decided to pull their money, buy an old car, take a trip to southern Utah. It was a 1918 Model T, and they managed to scrape up a grand total of $19.20 and a car token. They gave it a pretty good overhaul, but somehow the brakes gave out along the way. We've got a little song that's going to tell it. Come on, guys, where are you? Let's go. Share a little bit of the story about her dad.
Well, it was how Dad met Mom, and they used to do a lot of ward hopping for dances, and so they'd go from one ward to another ward to another ward, and on one such occasion, Dad saw this beautiful woman there, and he said, the guardian angel tapped him on the shoulder and said, she's the one. And so he had to dance with her, which she accepted. And after a little while, he got this idea, and he said, you know, I came with someone else. Would you wait for me while I toss her home, and then I'll come back and get you? And like a good girl, she says, no way. He found her number and gave her a call, and that began their first date. Adventure courtship.
John was madly in love with Melba. His duty to the church came first. And after he was ordained an elder, he received his mission call to none other than Holland. He was ordained on September 13, 1928 by Shipley D. Burton. He departed on September 28 with his parents, buddies, and of course Melba at the station. Mother Doreen will now share a story about her dad.
I'm told that there was a little courtship going here, and one evening my dad invited Mother to go with him up to the old mill. And apparently that's where he popped the question. And as I understand it, he did not really get down on his knee or anything, but the moon was just going over the mountains, the Wasatch Mountains, and it was a beautiful setting. And that's where all this began.
children. This must be a long chapter. There's a lot of people here tonight. Remembering the words of Noah, John, as he left the ark, to go replenish the earth. John took all the necessary steps to accomplish this, and John and Melba were married on July 22nd, 1931, in the Salt Lake City Temple by Joseph Christensen. They had a wedding breakfast after the ceremony. Keeleys attended their families, and in the evening there was an open house, after which they slipped away and stayed the night at a friend's home rather than go to their newly 3-bedroom apartment. Knowing Melba's brothers and brothers-in-laws, who surely would come up with some type of prank. Good idea. Well, a scant 9 months later, short a week, Dory May was born. Let's set the stage here a little. John had a good job as working as an accountant, and they had managed to put enough money aside to pay the doctor and the hospital bills for Doreen. But 2 weeks before she was born, the depression hit, lost all their money. Grandpa had to sell the car just to meet the bills for my mom. I mean, Dad, a great story. Grandpa's company soon went under. He was forced to seek employment elsewhere. M.L. Bean, Grandma's brother-in-law, had gone to Portland, had established a grocery business. He sent word that he could give jobs to Grandpa, and also her brother, Roy, if they would move to Portland. But they had no money. That's another story. To Portland and began their notorious moving history. Let's see what this will help clarify what I mean here. Kids? These are all the signs, addresses that Grandma and Grandpa have lived in these other places. How many, Grandpa? I can't remember. 22 addresses they have lived and moved in their lifetimes, married. Keep it coming, kids. Keep it coming. Keep it coming. Convinced that Dorian was going to be a boy, John had bought all the usual boys' toys before her birth, and of course would never admit that he was a wee bit disappointed that she was a girl. But determined to get this boy, he tried again, and striking gold was this boy, Gerald John. A few years later, they decided Dorian and Jerry needed a special Christmas present. So Janet Louise made her appearance just a little bit late, the morning after Christmas. Sorry, Janet. But they said that it was all right. They were sure Santa was much too busy delivering toys that night. I think each of them had a story to tell on one another, so let's listen in. Doreen first, a story. Talking at me a little bit confused.
I don't remember hearing about this story, but if it had anything to do with her being born, I remember the night before that we were so disappointed. We were all expecting the day before Christmas. My parents decided we better get ready because she's going to be born on Christmas Day. My mother was convinced. So got prepared that Christmas Eve. We all went downstairs in an apartment building to do some wash. I distinctly remember this part. And it was a big to-do because you had to go down the basement. And while we were down there, we heard some bells and Christmas, bells, Santa Claus sleigh bells. We were convinced we did. And when we got up to the apartment, we found out Santa Claus had come by mistake a little early, thinking we were asleep. We fooled him. So we had our Christmas Eve. And that was pretty exciting. But so the mother waited all day the next day, and it just didn't happen. And they played games, they did everything, and she finally cried and went to bed. And then she came the next day.
Jerry also has a story to share. Thank you, Jerry.
This story actually was supposed to, I'm supposed to tell how I saved my sister's life, my older sister. She had done something wrong and she was being disciplined by my mother. And I guess it was going pretty bad because I could see that I was going to have to intercede. And in my attempt to intercede, I had been playing with a nickel in my hand, and I pretended that I had swallowed the nickel. So all the attention then went to me, and I remember the Huskies won. I was watching my aunt, one of my favorite aunts was there too, and she was beholding all of this, and she was quite impressed that I would step forward and try to save my sister. Punishment which she may or may not have deserved, I'm sure. Well, I don't remember. So I made like I had swallowed the nickel, and I had fingers jammed down my throat. I was picked up, shaken by my legs. I was upside down, and all these things. And finally, I had to just hold out my hand. There was a nickel, and guess who got punished? So that was my attempt to save my older sister. She still owes me one, I believe.
Yeah, Jerry, you're all hard. But I remember, I don't really remember because I was only 2 weeks old. But anyway, as it was told to me, that it was back in the days when you had a baby, you were on a schedule. The baby was on schedule for feeding, and you did not give in any before that time. And so I was crying, and Jerry was just a little upset that I was crying, and Mom wasn't doing anything about it. And so he decided, Mom was on the telephone, so he decided to go rescue me. So he got up on the bed, pulled me out of the bassinet, and with my head tucked under his arm, he dragged me down the hall. And as I was sputtering and blue in the face and everything, Mom finally came to my rescue. But I don't know, Jerry, I forgive you because I know you were just trying to rescue me too.
Now it was off to Seattle in the year 1939 when ML had again preceded everyone there and was established his own grocery chain called Tradewell. Eventually, John went from managing Tradewell stores to a partnership in the sporting goods business ML established with his two brothers, Stan and Jimmy. This partnership lasted until they all retired in their mid-60s. Before we go on to the golden years, we need to say a little bit about Noah's admonition to John, that part about going forth and replenish the earth. Since we all know he was an obedient soul, let's see what he accomplished. We have a good guest chart here. How'd everybody do on the game tonight? Everybody get all those filled out? I mean, this is what this beginning thing is all about here. We have a chart here for all those who want to fill in your blanks and cheat.
Okay, I don't know if I'll read all these out, but this is what our family tree looks like. There's 45
Chapter 5, the golden years. Now there were certain fundamentals which have been constant throughout John's life. For as long as anyone can remember, he has been deeply involved in genealogy. He has brought countless thousands of names into light for important work to be done. We were all convinced that when he reaches the other side, this will be some reunion. The grandchildren.
including we went to Europe, and we went with the BYU group to the Holy Land with Cleon Skousen as a leader, and they went to an Alaskan cruise, and they went to Hawaii several times. Someone say Hawaii? That was their favorite vacation spot besides Birch Bay.
This is the moment
guys a little bit. And yes, they do love each other as cousins do. I just wanted to say that I wish that all of you, most of you don't really know my dad and my mom as young people. You know them as older, and their golden years. And I don't know why people say this is the golden years. I've talked to a lot of people recently about their golden years, and they don't say that, well, they just don't recommend it. So I'm going to go back to fattening foods and everything. Gordon and I were talking about this the other day. We're just going to go back to fattening foods and eat whatever we want to because he wants the golden years. I wanted to just say, I wish that all of you would have known my dad as when he was 6 inches taller, just an inch shorter than I am, and vigorous, athletic, worked hard, spent long hours working, and would come home and still have energy to play with us. And one year at Birch Bay, and I know you've been sitting for a long time, I'll make it short, I promise. Good, I hear from the back. One time, I was bound and determined to see how many holes 2 people could play in one day. And I knew that 36 could be beat and maybe 54. And so I got Dad up early one morning and I said, let's play all day. And, you know, it only cost a few bucks to play, so we were out bright and early. And I know that we got 54 in, and I'm sure that we had a few more holes than that, but I don't know how many holes exactly. I wish I could remember. I know there was a lot. He wouldn't get out of bed the next morning. I don't know why. I was ready to go for another record, but he wasn't. Strong, healthy, as I remember him. I wish you'd have known him. One time we were playing this one hole on Birch Bay was 600 yards long. And how many yards exactly? 16th hole. That was over 600 yards long, and we were playing behind some women, and that's not one of Dad's favorite things to do. And these guys that have all played with Grandpa know that when it comes to golf, he's not the most patient person in the world, and especially behind women. And so we were trying to be very patient and let them get ahead of us far enough that they would not get hurt. And he had a very long drive on this hole, this par 5. And I was afraid that these women were getting a little agitated with this because Grandpa kept hitting into it. And on the next shot, he hit on the, we waited until they got on the green, and then he hit the ball. And it went on the green, through their legs and in the hole. And I saw them standing on the green, waiting for us to come up, and I was afraid we were really going to get it now. But they wanted to congratulate him on his double eagle. And it was an awesome, he was a good golfer. It was great to be his son, and I wished again that you could have all known him as I did, and my mother too. I learned how to play golf with her, and that was those of you who were at Irene Woodward's funeral the other day, they mentioned playing golf with their mom and their grandmother, and I certainly had those times with her as well. Summarizing it all up, they've had a fun life, and they've done a lot of things together and with us, with their grandchildren and great-grandchildren. As you saw all these great-grandchildren standing here, there was a few missing. I have 4 in Salt Lake, and for the rest of them. Anyway. No, it's not setting in. What I wanted to say, every single one of them, when they were born, their grandmothers said, their great-grandmother said one thing: "Isn't that the most beautiful baby you've ever seen?" And Grandpa would say, "Yes." And they all are, and it's so beautiful, and it's so great to be here. Thank you all for coming and enjoying this time with us.
And we will finish with another song here. It kind of wraps up tonight's, all of Grandpa's life from the start to where it is now. It hasn't ended yet. So, well, not yet. We can do that after.
A smile
grab your programs if you could and join me in singing Old Lang Syne with the words that are written on there. So, please, everybody. I'd like to thank everybody for being here, sharing this birthday wish and greeting to my grandfather. All of you are welcome to come over here to have some cake and enjoy sharing each other's company. Thank you. Any completed forms for the contest? Also special thanks to Betty Cooney, who accompanied us and helped us. We wouldn't be able to do it without her.
Who got done on their contest sheets? Did anybody get all of them? Trisha. I know Trisha was working really hard on it. Did Trisha get them all? All right, yay. Double check them over there.
That's right.
Any words?
Well, all I can say, I'm very, very happy for this occasion.
It was sure fun.
This is my grandma.
Can't believe you're 90. 10 years, this really isn't that far along, though.
Well, I'm double 45.
Happy birthday, Grandpa.
Thank you.
Hi, Grandma. Well, Dave's finally here. He's 90.
Yeah, it's a beautiful day.
How does it feel to have a 90-year-old husband?
Well, I'm getting far, not far behind, so.
Not far behind.